Hi, this is Daniela Wolf with Bliss'd Life, the podcast, and this is your community to support you through the little and not so little events that make up your day-to-day life. From the I've got this moments to the I just can't moments. We are here to empower all women to find and develop the skills they need to find peace, balance, and the bliss in their busy. Through solo episodes as well as interviews with amazing women who share their journey and their story and how it works for you. I hope you find the inspirations to make you laugh, think, as well as maybe rethink what you thought you knew, and connect as we realize that we are all living similar ups and downs and don't have to do it alone. So excited for you to hear this episode, and thanks so much for joining me today. Hi, this is Daniela with Bliss'd Life, the podcast, and today I'm so excited for you to meet Allie Mirosevic. She is the founder of Bliss'd, which I'm already in love with, which is a self-care company that helps moms and women live more joyful, fulfilling, and connected lives through journaling. Allie really discovered her love for journaling after having a challenging first postpartum experience in 2019 and is now designing a line of easy-to-use gratitude and connection journals. And I am so excited to dive into this, Allie. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you so much for having me, Daniela. I'm so excited to be here. I really appreciate it.
So before I dive into all the questions I have, I would love to hear about your journey, what led you to this, what you've done to kind of bring you to where you are today.
Sure. So one thing that I think a lot of people are surprised to find out when they hear that I, have a journaling company is that I was not always a journaler. I didn't really grow up journaling that often. And it wasn't until the birth of my son in 2019 when I really discovered the power and my love of journaling. I had a challenging postpartum experience, as you mentioned in your intro. I had postpartum depression, and I like to be very upfront that I was doing all the things. I was in therapy and I was on medicine. And while in therapy, my therapist suggested journaling as an additional tool to help, both just in between sessions. And she thought it would be a really powerful tool for me. And it turns out it was. I really discovered a love for it. And I like to say that my journaling practice stuck long after the medicine finished. So 4 years later, my journaling is still an integral part of my self-care routine. And I really believe in the power of it. It's such a simple practice that can have profound impacts on people. And I guess kind of fast forward to how I started this company, I was already in the mindset, I always wanted to be an entrepreneur and have my own company. So I was already in the mindset of I need an idea. And while I was in this exploratory stage of journaling and trying to find the right journal for me, I really felt like there was a lack in the journaling market. I felt very overwhelmed and uninspired with the blank notebook. But on the other end of it, I felt like many of the popular guided notebooks on the market were a little too rigid for what I was looking for. So in a blank notebook, I started coming up with my own format, a very simple format. And that format is now the foundation of my first journal that I launched about a year-ish ago.
I love that. And I love, you already talked about now some of the things I was going to have, because I'm looking down around me because I literally have stacks of journals in my office. I love, and it's funny because I'm I wouldn't call myself a traditional journaler where it's pouring out my thoughts, but it's definitely when I have things that come to me, I want a place to put it. I need to get it out of my head, someplace I can come back to. And I have a lot of blank page journals. I do have some that have some of the structure, and those are probably more empty because I struggle to fit into some of that structure. And I think then for a long time, I thought I wasn't a journaler because I didn't fit into, I wasn't sharing my deepest feelings and pouring myself out every day, but then I also couldn't fill in the one that just asked me questions and stuff. So I would love to hear more about how you worked through some of that, because I think a lot of people, they have this myth and this mindset about what journaling is supposed to be. And if they don't meet that expectation, they don't see the options. So I'd love to hear what some of yours are.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely want to and do try to break down that myth. I really believe that there are no rules when it comes to journaling. And one of my favorite tips to give to someone who's I'm not sure what to write, or I don't know how to start. just start with that,
Mhm.
write, I don't know what to write, or I don't know what I'm doing, and then see what stems from there. But kind of when I was working with my therapist, she mentioned journaling as a tool. And the aspect she felt would be really helpful for me was just getting what was in my head out. And she's
Mhm.
like, just focus on that, like just that release, that like the process of writing out
Mhm.
whatever is running on your mind. Cause I tended to have like a, overstimulated mind going, a lot of thoughts on repeat and everything. She was like, that's what to focus on. And then I was also hearing a lot about gratitude and the power of gratitude. And I really wanted to incorporate that into my journaling as well. And so I think that kind of the thoughts is the most important part. And if you don't know what you're thinking, that's where to start.
Mhm.
Um,
What are some of the things in your journals then, in your planners, that kind of really help people through that process a little bit?
Sure. So the format of my journal, which I just really believe in the format, and anyone, if they're listening to this podcast, they can take my format and write it in a blank journal if they're not interested in my actual journal. That's how this started. But it's a section to write out your thoughts and your feelings. And then it's a section to focus on your gratitudes. And then
Mhm.
it's a section to end on an uplifting note with something you're excited for, or manifesting, or a goal you're working towards. And what I think is really special about my particular journal is that it is kind of that happy medium between a blank notebook, because
Mhm.
it's sections. So if you want a free flow write for each section, you're welcome to. But then I also give specific prompts that you can use for each section, or
Mhm.
just general ways to use each section. So it's really kind of that balance between the two. If you want a free flow write, you're welcome to. But if you are looking for that more guided experience in that moment, like there are prompts that you can choose from.
That's awesome. And I like to, when I've, worked with clients and we've talked about journaling, I always love to talk about going back and reading them, because I
Mm-hmm.
think in addition to getting everything out of your head, journaling also offers a different perspective by being able to then hear your thoughts in a different voice. There's the voice in our head, and then there's the voice when we read and hear things from outside of our head. And to be able to give that perspective, it, I'm sure, is so transformative, as part of your process as well, to not only see where you are and reflect in a different way, but to see how far you've come.
Absolutely. Yes. I mean, you touched upon one of the greatest benefits of journaling as well. Just like it is such a tool for growth.
Mm-hmm.
Some people get nervous that if they do look back, some people choose not to look back, and that's
Yeah.
totally fine. I do kind of like looking back because it really does it really does fuel my excitement and stuff. And I generally see how far I've come in those areas where I might have written something a year ago, like, oh, I want to do this. And I look back on it a year later and I still haven't done it, then there's another opportunity to like wonder and ponder why and figure that out. So on both sides, like it's a tool for growth to see how far you've come, or it's a
Mm-hmm.
tool to see where you might be stuck.
Yeah. And the other thing that you touch on too, which is also one of my favorite and underutilized self-care practices, which is gratitude, because I think there's so much, not only benefits, but the science behind it. When we start to focus on the positive, look at those good things on a regular basis, we train our brain to start seeing them. And I used to love even just going back in my gratitude journal. That's part of how my, personal development journey started, was just listing 3 things every day I was grateful for.
Mm-hmm.
And looking back, at even like a year later, I could remember those days because I focused on those moments.
I completely agree. Yeah, I definitely think there's so much power in gratitude, and the research and science backs it up as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm with you. I truly feel like a more grateful and fulfilled person, and it kind of spills out at random points. Like I'll just be on a walk and notice like how I feel
Mm-hmm.
mentally, or looking at nature, and it is just like this kind of indescribable feeling. But once you have the practice, you can kind of compare from prior
Mm-hmm.
to not having it and see and feel that difference.
Yeah. And it taps into almost like mindfulness, like the same kind of thing. Like
Mm-hmm.
start noticing like the blue jays, like specific birds, the way the light hits things,
Exactly.
like that mindfulness of noticing because you have that appreciation.
Exactly. And just to touch upon it, just in it gets easier as you do it more.
Mm-hmm.
So if you show up and write your gratitudes, like a lot of people are like, oh, I'm grateful for my home. I'm grateful for my health. I'm grateful for my family, which are huge foundational things to be grateful for. But as you start to do it more, you can leave those things off the list if you want, knowing that you're always feeling grateful for them, or you'll start to like notice the smaller things as well that you feel grateful for.
Yeah, I would put things like, someone held the door for me. The sun was actually out today. My banana smoothie that I love. Different things like that.
Yep. I put like a good night of sleep because I wake up feeling so much better after a good night of sleep. And yeah, exactly. Like gratitude really is all around us, as cheesy as that might sound.
And even some of these things people, might give a little face to it or whatever, because it can just sound cliche. But when you start practicing it and feeling the benefits of it, I think, we can kind of let go of some of those stereotypes then and really embrace it for what it is.
I agree.
So what is your personal practice look like? Because I think that's the other thing. People think they need a ton of time, or they've got to get up at the crack of dawn and have this, like ambient, candle kind of whole Zen thing going on. And that's not always realistic.
Right. And I have so many thoughts on that. So I'm really happy you asked that. Let me think about where to start. First, on the ritual side, I love the idea of a ritual, lighting the candle, drinking the tea. It's not realistic. I'm a mom of two. Aside from being a mom of two, I'm like a business owner. That's just not, I think social media sometimes plays into oh, I need the candle. I need the tea. I need this. You don't need that.
Yeah.
So I don't want people to get caught up on kind of, it's a little bit of a balance between that ritual, but you don't need that to have a journaling practice. My journaling practice these days looks like it's a part of my evening routine, although I will say I'm trying to become a morning journaler. It hasn't happened yet. It's very much like my wind down routine. I do my skincare routine, and then when I get into bed, I journal. The journal I use, it's 5-ish minutes. And I do it right before I read. I really enjoy reading before bed. So it's kind of like I've built that in, before I read, I journal. And other good news I have for people is science has shown you don't need to do it every day. I'm the founder of this company, and on average, I do about 4 times a week, usually Monday through Thursday, just because weekends are a little bit more unpredictable. And I'm trying to think, I had one other train of thought and I just lost it.
It'll come back.
Yeah, it'll come back. But yes, drop the ritual. Definitely, you don't need that. Sometimes it's nice if you can make it happen. In terms of when to journal, really whenever works for you and whenever you can fit into your schedule. Try to stack it with something that you already do. I do it before reading. If you'd like to journal in the morning, maybe do it while your coffee's brewing. That's a nice little 3 to 5 minute period that you could do. Lunchtime.
Yeah. I love that you took the pressure off of it. Doesn't have to be every day. That's fantastic, because I think, again, we put this pressure and these expectations on ourselves. And then when we don't meet them, that's what makes it hard. I love having it as part of a nighttime routine, because again, that's going to, what we just talked about with gratitude, that's going to improve the quality of your sleep. When you have a set routine, your body starts to know you're winding down, you're getting into that space, as well as just ending the day on a positive note. That's going to help the quality of your sleep. So you're not waking up with those 2 a.m. scaries kind of thing of the things that you're anxious about and that rumination.
And that's why I do it. It's really just that the release of whatever's in my head from that day. I find it does, improve my sleep. There is also some studies that show it can really help with goal setting, especially when you're writing out your goals or visualizations, and then you go to bed and that's the note that you ended on, which is really exciting to hear.
Yeah. And I just curiously, are your planner or your journals only paper, or are they digital journals as well?
That's a great question. Right now they are only paper, but on my list is to get out the digital version, because I have had that asked. So that's priority for this month. I'm a one-woman shop, so there's a lot of priorities for this month, but yeah, that is top of the list.
Awesome. And actually we're recording in December, early December, and this is going to air in 2024. So
perfect.
The digital could already be out there by the time you're hearing it, which is awesome. And I asked that question as well too, because and I find I work with younger people, as part of my full-time job, and the idea of writing obviously generations have changed. This is a very digital,
Mhm.
generation, but the idea of talking to text, and even sometimes I find myself like, I'll say, Siri, take a note, or things like that, and so to be able to still access it then in the way that you are going to be consistent, that is going to work for you, that, you can do then as part of, your commute to work or other things, I think it's really going to open the doors to journaling for so many more people.
Absolutely agree. I mean, and that's where, it is like taking the practice and making it your own and what works for you, because when it works for you, that's when you show up. And when you show up, that's when you start to see the results.
I love this. I'm so excited for you. I can't wait to see those.
Well, and I love that you touched on that, because that is another thing I like to say, like when I'm asked like, oh, I can't journal every day, or I'm not so into writing. I really love writing. Like that's what feels very cathartic for me, but I get that not everyone does. But I would say, like, what is the minimum, the other thing that you can do to still get the feeling of like writing it out? Is it the voice to text note? Is it just writing it in a note section in your phone, etc.? So I'm glad that you touched on that as well.
So we talked a little bit about gratitude, and the one thing I always ask my guests is, what are the things that you would say you're the most grateful for? Obviously, you're doing this every single day.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, let's put the how home, health, safety, family, that's on the table. That is very much a given. I would say really, I'm grateful right now to have the opportunity to work on this business. This has been like honestly a dream come true. And while it's been really challenging, it's my dream. So I'm able to work through those challenges and everything. I'm really grateful to live where I live. I live in Los Angeles. I'm originally from Chicago, and I just really love this city. I've been here 11 years. I live relatively close to the ocean. I try to see it as much as I can. And every time I do, I just like, it fills my cup.
No, that's awesome. So how can people find you? Where can they get their journals? How, can we order them? All that type of stuff.
Yes, absolutely. So my website is blissd.co, BLISSD.co. And I'm primarily on Instagram at the handle @blissdco. I'm a little bit on TikTok, but I'm trying to get on TikTok, and it's the same handle @blissdco.
Yeah, no, awesome. And all those links will be live in the show notes below. So thank you so much, Allie, for all that you're doing and for being here with us today.
Thank you, Danielle. I really appreciate this opportunity.
Thanks so much again for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Please let me know any questions or comments that you have. Also, if you can please leave an Apple 5-star review so that this episode can be shared with more women. There's 2 quotes that I love. Alone we may be strong, but together we are stronger, as well as when women support each other, incredible things happen. So let's be stronger and incredible together, as well as maybe just have some fun along the way. Thanks so much, and talk to you soon. Bye.